G'day guys, it's Mark here and welcome back to the Iron Empire for the first time in 2024. Stick around because we're going to take a look at 2023 and what made that year the best, but also kind of the worst. Let's get into it. Alright guys, here we are for the very first time in 2024 coming at you, the Iron Empire, and the first thing we're going to do is take a look at 2023. Let's reminisce the past and see what we got up to and see what makes 2023 possibly the best and worst year for the Iron Empire. Now, I'm just going to get onto my laptop here so we can have a look at the videos that were released in 2023 so we can remember what the hell happened, because it seems like a bit of a blur to me. So, first of all, connect to the internet. Oh, ball dust. What? Excuse me, we've got some technical difficulties. Oh, it's warm. It's hot today. All right, now we are back with an internet connection and a cool beverage. And we're going to take a look at what the hell happened in 23. Okay, so I already know straight off the bat, the first episode that was released was basically pretty much today, 1 year ago, and we started off strong. We headed over to Summernats. That was Summernats 35, was it? Yeah, Summernats 35. We took the Tirana, as you all know. We built Andrea's little UC Tirana, her very first car on the channel in the previous years, and she's always wanted to go to Summernats, had never been, and I surprised her. And what better car to take than her very own UC Tirana? So we loaded that up on the trailer, we towed that over the AU wagon, and we hit Summernats for the very first time. It was definitely, it was worth going to, let me put it that way. It's not exactly my scene, and we're glad we went, but I don't think we'll be going back in a hurry. We would very much love to check out Red Center Nats or the Rocky Nats, so we might put that on the list for maybe this year. But yeah, we start off pretty strong with the Summer Nats video, and yeah, it got a pretty good response. People liked seeing what we're up to there, and yeah, obviously if you're going to have Summer Nats in the title of any video, it's going to get a lot of traction this time of year. Shortly after that, actually my biggest video to date in 2023 was actually my biggest video ever on the Iron Empire, and that is when Andrea brought home the Bronco. Now this thing, obviously you guys know, absolute wreck. We dragged out of the back streets of northern suburbs of Adelaide, and this thing is due for some love. But let me tell you, that thing's running now, and we have some new goodies for that to make that into a turnkey driver. At the moment, we can turnkey driver on the paddock, but we have some big plans for that in 2024, including a new fuel system through Raceworks, and we're going to put some floors in it, thanks to Mark at F100 Spares. And we're going to try and get that thing on the road this year. Let's try and make that a bit of a plan for this year. You heard it here, you heard it first. Moving forward, oh man, it is cooking, guys. It is a really hot day today, and the aircon is not really cutting the mustard. I'm going to turn it up, need more wind speed. Who would have thought you could be anything but cool wearing a Jake's Chop Shop t-shirt? All right, so after that, we had a 2-for-1 episode on the Harley and the YZ. For some reason, bike videos are never overly popular on my channel, even though I love my bikes, and the Iron Empire did actually start as a Harley building custom shop called the Iron Empire, or Iron Empire Motorcycles. Yeah, for some reason you guys aren't big on bikes, and that's fair enough. I'm sort of more of a car guy as well. But yeah, I tied up a bit of a Sportster, sold that off, and also a YZ. They both went to subscribers, which is really cool. Now, we also done a bit of an aftermath video down at Jake's Chop Shop, checking out Jake's VL after he went to Summernats and absolutely ran that ran that thing through the ringer. He got a lot of interest in his VL over there at Summernats, and one of the things that makes 2023 great is Jake sort of has gone leaps and bounds since going to Summernats with his VL and his VL build in particular. He sort of showed a lot of people what he is able to do, and he has got a lot of interest and a lot of work through building his VL, learning on that car, and he's done a lot of Commodores and engine bays and engine swaps, and a lot of that sort of stuff has come from his VL build. So super happy to see Jake excel in that department, and yeah, we just done a little bit of a video on that and seeing what he broke and what survived, and overall it was pretty solid performance there. Now, after that in February, we actually finalized a video on Andrea's AU Fairlane. This is her daily driver, the 5-litre AU, and yeah, she had a little bit of a mishap with some heavy downpour. She ran into some flood waters basically on a suburban street, flooded that thing, bent a rod, and that motor needed saving. I pretty much said to her on the side of the road that day, if this thing needs a rebuild, it's going in the bin. But I ended up tearing it down. You know, before you know it, I'm started looking further. Before I know it, I am deep in this thing, and we found the problem and decided to rebuild. So I done a very basic rebuild, which included putting a second-hand, we've got a snoring dog over here, which included putting a second-hand 5-litre piston in this engine, once again from Market F100 and Ford spares. Basically gave the engine a bit of a clean up, a few fresh gaskets, and we slapped in a sneaky Crow Stage 3 cam, and then yeah, painted it all, put it all back together. While I was there, I had some fantastic support from Raceworks and TI Performance. We done a set of injectors, also a J3 tune to dial in the new camshaft, also put a set of advanced headers on this thing, and also a 2 grand stall. Gave it a bit of a birthday, put it all back together, and that thing is absolutely sweet. Andrea's out doing some running around in it today, and yeah, that is now back to being her new daily basically. And yeah, so that was a good one to get ticked off the list for 23, because that's her daily. She loves it, and we've saved it. We saved a flooded, drowned car. Now moving ahead, we done a video on the Dodge Dart. We done a bit of damage to that when we travelled over to the Mopar Nationals, the Mopar Powered Nationals in Heathcote the year prior, and the Dart had some issues. We got home, we made it home under its own power, but it was an absolute journey from hell. You can see that in episodes back in 2022. We've done a big road trip, and it came time to find out. Well, basically, it started off by pulling the engine out to give it a paint job and tidy up the engine bay. I wanted that engine bay to look absolutely mint while retaining the patina externals of this car. But when we pulled the motor out, I found there was some significant end play in the crankshaft, and yeah, that opened a big can of worms this year. I ended up later in the year, as in only recently, I ended up chasing up a new crankshaft for that motor, and we'll be machining that and putting that all back together this year. I'm still unsure exactly how far I'm going to go with that motor, if we just try and put a new crankshaft in it, leave it all stock and put it back together, or if I go down the path of doing a camshaft swap, which is going to open up a big can of worms and add a lot more cost. But while it's apart, what way do you go? I'm still undecided, but one thing I do know is while that 318 is apart, I am going to do a bit of head work on it myself. I'm going to port it, obviously with the help of Chris and the team down there at Harman Engine Reconditioning. Have been an absolute massive support of me over the years, and have helped me out and sort of helped me through a lot of the builds that I've got on the go, and the 318 is one of them. So Chris has always opened his doors and welcomed me to come down and work on my stuff there. So I'm going to do a bit of head work on the 318. I'm going to re-grind the valves and do a bit of porting and stuff, and throw a few gaskets in that, and then finally put that back in the car, and then we'll have the Dart on the road again. I'm going to, once again, you heard it here, you heard it first, it is going to be on the road this year. We're going to have the Dart back because we love that car, even though it put us through hell. it's going to be back and we're going to love it. Now, we also got stuck into the wannabe Sandman. Now, Jake done a paint panel number on that thing over a year ago, and I started reassembling. So the motor was all painted up as well. Started reassembling the front end and putting stickers on it. And yeah, look, that started. I wanted to have that done last year. Didn't happen. But I started making a little bit of progress through the end of the year, tinkering. But reassembly is often a really slow, drawn-out process because you've got to find all the parts that you've tore down over a year ago. You got to remember how it all goes. You got to fix the parts. You got to clean the parts. You got to paint the parts. You got to put them on, and then you got to find they don't fit, and then you got to do it all again. But anyway, that's a long-winded story, and that's a long-winded project. But we are getting through it. The Sandman, I actually have been working on a little bit behind the scenes. I've had a few little bits of footage here and there, but nothing significant. I haven't shown you guys, but only a week or so ago, I went down there with my cousin Danny. We done a little bit of wiring, and we actually had that thing fired up for the first time since it's been painted and stripped down. So since that thing transformed from a WB to a HZ, we'll call it, HX, it's the first time it's fired up and ran. So that's exciting, and we'll get back into that this year as well. So now beyond that, we done a bit of a HG Kingswood rescue. We dragged that out from Mid-North. That was for Jake, so he could put a lot of those parts into his Monaro that he was planning to build. That never eventuated last year. We'll see what happens this year, but there are some goodies that are going to be saved from a old wreck that was out in the Mid-North. And yeah, so you can also see any progress of these cars that I mentioned on Jake's Chop Shop channel. He's got a lot of stuff going on over there too, so definitely check that out. Moving forward, we done a little bit on the Cortina. I actually started doing the paint panel on that Cortina, a little TE with a 250 crossflow in it, a 5-speed manual. I started doing the paint panel on that, and I decided to palm that off. I got that painted, and later on, once the car returned in one color, I then done some graphics, sort of like some 80s/90s inspired street machine graphics, and I haven't even finished that. One side's done, the other side's only just started, but that car will also be finished this year. I'm going to finish off the graphics. I might change up the wheels. The welds do look great, but they're the wrong offset and it looks a bit funky. But Cortinas are very hard to find wheels for. They're a weird stud pattern and a weird offset. So if you have any options for me, hit me up for the TE Cortina. That car will be up for grabs soon as well. So if anyone's keen on a sweet little project, hit me up. It is a turnkey car, but needs a little bit of love. Now moving ahead a little further, we done a little more work on my FD LTD, which is obviously my first car replacement car, if that makes sense. My first car was an FC LTD Cartier running a 351, and yeah, I had the bug to get my first car back, and I ended up with an FD LTD, which is a 6-cylinder 250 crossflow with a velour trim rather than the leather trim. It actually looks a bit nicer, I believe, but the leather is always better. You just slip on into those seats a lot comfier. But we've done a lot of work on that car this year as well. We've done some ride height stuff. Got that thing dialed in to be a much more comfortable driver. But yeah, I dialed in that car a lot better than it was. It did have chop springs all round, clapped out shockers, and I ended up going with a set of King springs and Petters shocks. And I chose a very high-end Petters shock. They were definitely not cheap, but that car drives a hell of a lot better. Admittedly, I'd probably like the rear end to be maybe a touch lower, but it's already pretty firm on the ride. But I think it's probably as good as I'm going to get considering the ride height I'm sort of going for. Also, I've done a little bit of work on the interior, tried to button up the dash. That was in a million pieces, and I've done a little bit of work on that as well with a stereo install, which you guys will see upcoming. Also, I fixed the thing. It wasn't running. We took it for a spin one night, and it died on me, and I pretty much nearly gave up on it for months, and then decided one day that I had to beat it, and I started farting around. We got that thing running and driving. So that is a turnkey car yet again. It's sitting just behind me here. It's a little bit dusty, but I was planning on maybe getting that out this afternoon actually and taking that for a spin because we've got rain coming tomorrow. So yeah, pretty proud that is now a weekend cruiser option for us, and there's obviously plenty to do on that. I'm going to do some paint panel on the door jambs, bits and pieces here and there, but overall, that's a turnkey car. So that's a win. Moving even further ahead, we done a little bit of work on an XG paddock rescue. Now, I had this thing for quite a few years. I bought it for parts and pieces. Just a old beta XG ute. Nothing too exciting there. I think I fired it up and can't even remember, but I still have that car. A few people asked to buy it, but the parts I want from it are worth more than the car. So I probably will end up keeping that car and just parting it out and using those bits and pieces, because if I sell it, I'm only going to have to find the parts again anyway and probably pay more than I get for the car. So unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes when you need parts and the car value is not high. Now, a little later in the year, we hit a few car shows. We went to the Airstrip meet, Charlie's first solo car show he put on at the Woodside Airstrip. That was a really, really cool turnout, an awesome event. As you guys know, that for those events that we've put on in the past, we always try and choose something a little bit more unique. We try and pick something a little bit industrial or something a little bit different than your typical old school, sports oval car show, because they're a little bit snooze fests. But he chose the Woodside Airstrip, and he had some really cool cars on display, and of course some planes and some choppers and stuff. So that was a cool event. It did get a little bit boggy. We had a little bit of rain around that week, although it held off for the event. We had a little bit of mess on the way out, but that was a cool event. Charlie also moved on and started doing some creator events down at his workshop, where he has that big wall where you can photograph your car and have that seamless background. He's put on quite a few creators and car events down there. I have not managed to even reach one of those yet, because we've been so flat out building our shack up in the Riverland, which we'll touch on a little bit later. But yeah, looking forward to getting stuck back into some car show stuff this year as well. So moving forward, next page. Oh, another thing we did was we bought a little CF Moto UTV. That was really cool. We live out here on the land. We haven't got a massive amount of land, but we got enough to warrant sort of needing a little bit of a farm rig. And rather than using the beat up old Courier, we thought we'd treat ourselves, and we bought a UTV. And we often go out in the forest and do a bit of exploring, and I use that to do the watering and that sort of stuff, and that's a really cool vehicle. So we've done a little bit of a video on that to show you guys something a little bit different on the channel. Now moving forward, we've done a little bit more work on a few of the cars that you'd seen earlier. We've done a little bit more on the Bronco. We got that, we threw a few more parts at that thing. We progressed with that, got it to where it is now. I bought a new daily driver, being an F250. That thing is it served us well. We flogged that thing. We loaded that thing to the brim when we were doing all our renovations on the shack. Building materials and bits and pieces. That thing got well used, which leads us to the shack. I may as well talk to you guys about that while we're at it. Now, for those of you who have been following along, Andrea and I also have another channel called More Than a House. We're a little bit slack on that channel at some stages, but that was basically documenting the build and renovation of a little shack that we bought at Walker Flat in the Riverland of South Australia. And the plan of that shack was to basically build something that we can use for ourselves. We love the Riverland. It was something very humble and very affordable, so that's why we got that particular place. And we all chose that we'd like to have other people enjoy it as well. So we planned on building that into an Airbnb style accommodation. And so far, as of only a few weeks, we've had our first few guests through, and so far so good. It's been not too daunting experience so far, but we have people coming and staying in our place, which is a little bit weird, but we're getting really good feedback, and it's awesome. It's another way of us moving forward, and that is probably the main reason why I say that 2023 was not only the best but the worst year for the Iron Empire. Now, personally, in our private life, it has been an unbelievably positive year. We've been very lucky to be able to achieve what we've done. We've set a lot of goals, and we've actually reached a few of them. But what makes it a bit of a probably the worst year for the channel is that because we've been so flat out on that project, the car projects have taken a bit of a back seat, unfortunately. So the content has probably not been quite as exciting as it has in previous years. I was hoping that the Iron Empire would grow every year, bigger, better. But this year has been a bit of a slowdown. It's definitely not a step backwards, but it's definitely slowed down. But that's just because we've been putting our time into some other things. We've been prioritizing other things. And now that we've reached our goal there, we hope that moving forward, I can start spending a little bit more time on the car stuff, which is what I love doing, and obviously sharing it with you guys. Now, for those of you who haven't already, go check out More Than a House. That is our renovation channel. We are by no means renovators. We are DIYers, DIY for life. But it might be something that you might find interesting. Definitely something the missus might find a little more interesting than the car stuff. And also, if you are ever traveling through SA, or if you're already in SA and you want a weekend away, check out the Little Mallee Getaway on Airbnb. You can check out the listing there, see all the work we've done there and the options for staying if it's something that you want to do a little bit different for a getaway. We open our doors to welcome anyone that wants to come and stay. Now on top of that, what also made 2023 one of the hardest years is that particular shack we're talking about was actually flooded exactly this time last year. 1 year ago, we were about 600 to 700 mil underwater in that shack. So we'd done 75% of the renovations. We were getting to the pointy end of the build, and then the water started coming up, and it kept coming until it was inside, and it flooded us out. So we essentially had to re-renovate throughout the whole 2023, which of course is why we spent so much time up there and less time on the cars. That was pretty challenging personally, but we never really let it sort of get to us too much, because here we are less than a year later, and we're already renovated and online and opening our doors to guests. So yeah, it's not all bad. Now moving ahead towards the middle of the year now. We're only at the middle, so stick with me if you're already getting bored, guys. We've got a little way to go. We done a little bit of work on the bag Fairlane, which you'll see on the hoist behind me. There still is a lot of work to do on that car. It is getting a little bit worn out, we'll say. So I've done a little bit of modifications in the rear end, modifying the bag setup. I wasn't happy with how the rear shocks worked. I've rejigged that design in the back now, and I've got it running a lot better. I do have a new set of shocks to go in because the shocks that are in there are a little bit firm. So there's still a little bit of tweaking to go, but we're getting closer. I also done exhaust repairs on that. I've done a muffler video where I've done exhaust repairs on about 3 or 4 different cars that we've got here at the Iron Empire. Also, the NL is basically awaiting some extras. We need to do a new steering rack, which is leaking badly. I need to fix a leaking front bag. I need to do a few paint touch-ups. I need to do air conditioning in it. But I would like to get those things done sort of in the next couple of months, because that is a really cool cruiser, and it's not a lot of things to do to get that to being another option for when we want to take it out on days like today. Now, one of the other vehicles we introduced you guys to on the channel was the VNSS over there in the paddock. Now, I have acquired a bunch of parts in order to get that thing ready to go through Raceworks. We've got brand new injectors, brand new fuel pumps. I've got plugs, leads, you name it. Basically, we're going to go over that thing mechanically top to bottom to get that thing turnkey. And I will also like to start getting that car back to where it was. It's got some aftermarket or later model bars on it that look terrible. I've got the original VNSS bars to go back on that car. I'm pretty sure we've got the VN spoiler also. Basically, we're going to get that thing to a drivable car, but I don't think I'm going to be doing anything cosmetically. Maybe a bit of a tidy up, but I won't be getting any paint. I might even leave it as a little bit of a patina car, just to stir the pot a little bit. And then we'll probably end up selling that off. So if anyone's in the market for a VNSS, bit of a project, hit me up. Email is going to be right here. Now, in October, we've seen something very exciting happen here in SA. We've seen a brand new drag strip open up at Tailem Bend. We have been anticipating a brand new drag strip for many years. SA has gone probably 5 or so years without drags here, and it's shithouse. We heard word of the drag strip up at the Bend being a thing since the Bend opened, and it finally come into fruition, and it opened up in October. And yeah, we went up there to check that out, and we went up there for the Street Machine Drag Challenge, and that was one of the best events of the year, if not the best event. The facilities there are unbelievable, and of course the Street Machine Drag Challenge event is one of the best around. You get to see actual genuine street cars driving from track to track, racing and laying down times as quick as 6 seconds. And that was an awesome event, and I think it just made it that much better, the fact that we are only an hour away. It's our hometown track, and it's the best event of the year. And yeah, we went up and checked that out. There's a couple of videos on the channel of that. We would love to check that event out ourselves with one of our own cars, but of course we have nothing but slow cars, so I don't think we'll be doing that anytime soon. But we will do it one day, maybe when it comes to Adelaide, starts and finishes here yet again. Maybe that will be the year. Now in November, I actually tried a brand new segment on the channel, and I never even named it. I can't remember if I come up with a name for this segment, but basically I went and checked out a mate of mine. Daniel has a really tidy XD S-Pack, and amazing build. I done a pretty in-depth video on that car and what he done to build it to where it is now, and I showed you guys on the channel as something different to show someone else's shed, someone else's build, someone else's life, and you guys loved it. We had some really good feedback on that car, some really good views on the video, and I did have plans on pursuing that segment, going to see some other people's cars, and I still have plans on doing that. I just haven't had chance. The last half of the year has been insanely busy with the shack, and I haven't had a chance to do it, but I would definitely like to do that. So yeah, coming into this year, we're going to go check out some other people's sheds and see what's hidden under these car covers around the place, and I'll be bringing it to you in 2024. Now later in the year, we spent a little bit of time on engines. We tore down the Dart 318 to find out exactly what was wrong with it. I touched on that a little bit earlier in this video. I also started to do a little bit of work and work towards the plan of what we're going to do with the AMC 390, which is going in my AMC Javelin, and that has been on the back burner for like 2 years. I was waiting on pistons to come from the States, and that was a whole nother thing, but we're at a point now where my engine that is down at Harman Engine Reconditionings has a couple of new sleeves put in this thing. It's been bored out, ready to go. It's just simply awaiting its final hone. I've got some brand new forged Wiseco pistons. We've got a lot of parts for this motor to start basically continuing on with the build, so we can get that thing finished and wrapped up this year as well. I'd love to have that motor built, painted, wrapped up, awaiting the Javelin to be then built. So I dare say that won't be happening this year, but the motor will definitely be done, and you'll see some videos coming up in the coming month or so on the progress on that Javelin engine. That 390 is going to be a very burly V8. And now moving on to the last video of the year, which wasn't planned to be the last video of the year. I was planning on this to be the last video of the year, but holidays. The last video of the year was actually on buying my very first boat, and of course I had to try it out in the dam. So I bought myself what is apparently a 1970 Pride Playmate. Now these things are Australian built fiberglass hull boats. It's a runabout type boat, which is basically a bit of an all-rounder. It's got a 70 horsepower triple cylinder 2-stroke Evinrude outboard on it, and it is cool. It is super retro, and it's like any other classic. I have desires to finish this thing. We'll basically change it up to really hone into that 70s vibe, and it's pretty much just like having a classic car but on the water. It's definitely no muscle car because it's only got a little outboard on it, but it is super cool. I took that thing out in the dam to make sure everything worked all sweet, and obviously just because I can. But since then I've actually had that in the water up on the river, and we had a few hiccups. That were probably my fault, but overall it's a pretty good little rig. So we'll probably have a video coming up in the future, short-term future, of actually giving that a run out on the Murray, and that's a cool little boat. So yeah, definitely stick around for 2024. I hope it's going to be a hell of a lot bigger than 2023. I've got a lot of projects on the go. I have a lot of projects that I guarantee I will finish. Of course, if there's anything in my collection that you are interested in, most stuff is always for sale. You can hit me up in the email listed right here. And yeah, stick with me, guys, for 2024. Like I said, 2023 was probably my worst year for the channel, purely because the content wasn't always there. But 2024, I guarantee, is going to be different. We got a lot on the go, and I'm looking forward to a big one. That's going to be it, guys. Thanks for sticking with me on this long-winded video. I will see you all on an upcoming episode of The Iron Empire.